going to jump right in because I
Okay.
don't want us to wait. And
Okay.
this will be recorded, and we're going to share this one because we this one's about the RPD, the new one. So
Okay.
can you see what I'm seeing?
Yeah, hold on. Let me minimize what behind my screen so I can look at this. Yes, I can see it. Residential Property and Owners Association disclosure.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So technically this is not going to be required until July,
Okay.
over of new forms. However, they said we could go ahead and start using it. So I wanted to cover it first, and then I'll upload it into Command for it to be an option for agents. So
Okay.
one thing, the NCREC actually puts out this document, not NC Realtors like our contracts. So,
Okay.
and sometimes people get those two things confused. Our contracts actually come from NC Realtors in partnership with the North Carolina State Bar. This one, however, is directly from the commission. You can see it's now 6 pages.
Good gracious.
It is a little bit easier to read. Some people call it, I just call it the RPD. Some people call it the RPODs
I
because
do
the
that.
Owners Association.
Uh-huh.
So neither one of them are wrong.
Okay.
So of course, it's just kind of like it was before, the description and who owns it. This is a link in reference to the state statute that requires owners complete this disclosure. So even if it's a for sale by owner, this has to be filled out as part of the
Oh,
sale. Um,
okay.
and even if it's two parties that aren't using agents, if it files with an attorney to change the deed, again, this law still stands to everybody. Have to be completed.
So if
Um,
that were the case, an attorney would be the one to provide people that have no representation by agents?
yep,
Okay.
yep. So um,
Wow.
there are very few limited exemptions to this. And part of them is like that's in the statute. So 47E-2's got the ones that are exempted from it. It's like if one of them is like a foreclosure and it's a bank. So sometimes if you when we're reviewing foreclosures, and like someone that's got a foreclosure business, like Karen used to have one, Karen Ward.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so they wouldn't have this disclosure in there because they're actually exempt
Oh,
um, from having it. So also another one is the heirs. Some of the heirs aren't, if you inherited the property, you don't have to. But anyway, there's a list on
okay.
47E2 in there. So a owner is required to provide this with to every question, either a yes, a no representation, or a not applicable. And those are the options: YN, NR, or NA. Um, an owner is not required to disclose a material fact, even if they have knowledge of it. However, failure to disclose a latent hidden fact may result in civil liability. The disclosure of that statement of the disclosures made in this statement are the owners, not of any broker.
Broker. Okay.
So this is not, even if you give them this form and talk them through it, these are not your answers as an agent. These are all their answers as the owner of the property. And so even if an owner says yes or no, the owner's not obligated to disclose an information about what they have actual knowledge. If they say yes in response to any question, they have to provide written explanation or attach a report from a reliable source, an attorney, engineer, contractor, pest control, etc., describing what was yes. If they say no and the owner has actual knowledge of that question, including if there's any problems, that it's like no, and they know there's a problem that the owner knows is not correct to answer that way, they may be held liable for making that intentional misstatement of a no. And if the owner selects NR, which is no rep, that that means they may know of an issue and they may not. So they may know of it and choose not to disclose it, or they simply just don't know. NA, of course, just means the property does not contain, it doesn't, um,
Have
or
that.
Yep,
Okay.
doesn't have it on the property. So the purpose of the statement, a dwelling means any structure intended for human habitation. So humans are going to be dwelling in it. Property means any structure intended for human habitation and the tract of land. And NA means it does not apply to the property or the exist on the property. So owners, you must give a complete and signed disclosure to the buyer no later than the time the buyer makes an offer to the purchase. So we can't, that's why I'd actually ask in the offer to purchase, have you received an RPD and a MOG?
Mm-hmm.
Um, technically this has to be provided prior to offer. So sometimes when the commission's reviewing things, they actually looked for dates and times and like, did you check we had received this before? If you check I have not received it, then you're making an offer without it. So you're kind of accepting that you don't know already.
Okay.
If the owner does not, the buyer can, under certain conditions, cancel the contract. Um, an owner is responsible for completing and delivering this statement to the buyer, even if the owner is represented in the sale by a real estate broker. And the broker must disclose, and this is, I'm glad this is here, the broker must disclose any material facts about the property that the broker knows or reasonably should know, regardless of how the owners respond. So I'm really glad that it's actually in there now. The owner
Pretty
should keep a
cool.
copy of this signed by the buyer for their records. If something
Okay.
happens to make the disclosure statement incorrect or inaccurate, like if I filled it out and it wasn't that way, but then later on, well, wait a second, it is that way now. The roof started to leak. The owner must promptly give the buyer an updated disclosure or correct that problem. Note that some issues, even if repaired, such as structural, fire, they remain material facts must be disclosed by a broker even after repairs are made. To me, I, just the less questions, the better. I disclose any and everything I could.
Yeah.
So for buyers, the owner's responses contained in the disclosure statement are not a warranty or should not be a substitute for conducting a careful evaluation of the property. Buyers are encouraged to carefully review the entire statement and obtain their own inspections from licensed inspectors or other professionals. Don't assume an answer of no or no rep is a guarantee of no defect. If an owner selects no, that means the owner has no actual knowledge. It does not mean that a defect does not exist. If they select NR, it could mean they know of knowledge and choose not to disclose. And then R2, they just don't know it. Here's the great thing for brokers. Licensed real estate brokers shall furnish their seller client with a disclosure statement for the seller to complete in connection with the transaction. A broker shall obtain a completed copy of this and provide it to their buyer clients to review and sign. All brokers shall review the completed statement, ensure the seller has responded to all questions, take reasonable steps to disclose material facts about the property that the broker knows or reasonably should know, and regardless of how the owner has responded. Explain to the buyer that the disclosure statement does not replace an inspection and encourage the buyer to protect their interests by having the property fully examined. Brokers are not permitted to complete this statement on behalf of their sellers. Brokers who own the property may elect. This is happening a lot when like a agent's flipping a property and they own it. So brokers who own the property may select NR or no rep, um, but are obligated to disclose material facts they know or reasonably know. So you can say that, but if you intentionally withhold something, you can't.
Okay.
So, all right. So this reads a little different and looks a little different from before. So that's kind of all the explanations on page one. Remember, there were all these signature places on page one before.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's just initials on page one, no signatures. So getting into page two, section A is the structural. This reads a little bit like a inspection report comes back. So,
Where?
it's broken up in sections. So this is structural floors, walls, ceilings, windows, and doors.
Oh, okay.
So this is, basically the structure itself. Is it currently occupied? Yes, no, or I'm not saying. The date, the date the owner acquired it, and if not acquired, how long since they did acquire it. Is the dwelling in what year was it constructed, if you don't know? There's an NR.
Mhm.
Uh, has there has there been any structural additions or mechanical changes to the dwellings? And you can see the choices. What the siding is, if it's just not different, you can check, or you don't know what it is. And what year was the roof installed, or you're not sure. Is there any leakage with the roof? Yes, no, don't know, or no rep. Is there water seepage, leakage, dampness, or standing water in the basement or crawl space or slab? This one's also getting to be a sticky thing. We're seeing several conversations and complaints coming back on the crawl space. And I know it's not our favorite place to open the door and look into or know how to get into, but that's something as an agent we should be doing. At least what we call head and shoulders. So stick your head and shoulders in and look around and see if it's you see any water standing, any leaking or any seepage in there. That's considered a material fact to an agent. Is there an infestation present in the dwelling or damage from past infestations of wood destroying insects that has not been repaired? And there's your answers. So here, this one's a little bit different. You take all four options, and is there a problem with foundation, slab, patio floors, windows, doors, ceilings, deck, garage, fireplace, chimney, or any other? So you can see this box reads totally different than the thing before. So explanations, if you in section A, if you answered yes to anything. So
So I put a
now,
question right there.
yep,
From like our time with you in team meetings where you said we have to disclose even if it has been repaired. So would that be like where the explanation, even though up there they say, because there was a question um that has not been repaired, talking about the insects or organisms that has not been repaired. But even if there was damage and repaired, should we encourage them to put that down? Because they
yes,
acknowledge that it was repaired at some point, something was
yep,
wrong.
correct.
Okay.
It's a perfect spot for that.
Okay.
Because it says explanations for questions in section A, identify the specific
Specific
questions. So
questions for
you
each.
might say A9
Okay.
foundation and much again, this is much like an inspection
Inspection
report.
report.
So like refer to A5, what year would go down here.
Okay.
So electrical and HVAC is section B. Is there a problem, malfunction, or defect with the dwelling's electrical outlets, wiring, panels, switches, fixtures, etc.? You can see the choices over here. This is kind of like Scantron bubble sheets from college to me. Um, so is there a problem or malfunction or defect with heating or air? Yes or no or maybe? Or no rep? What is the dwelling's heat source? And then if you don't know, um, interesting here, a number of units that's been added. So that wasn't there before.
Yeah.
Um, so we're now initials again on bottom of page 2. We still not seen signature, so this form is totally different.
Yeah.
Um, Continuing on page 3 with the dwelling's cooling source and whether it's window, wall, or other. Now, North Carolina, you're not required to have a cooling source.
Right.
You
Just
are
the heat.
required to have a heat source.
Right.
So um, just know that that could be not an option because they don't have it. And
Okay.
then here, the fuel source for that cooling, or for the unit itself, and then explanations around anything you've answered in the above section.
That's good to know.
So, section C. So sometimes you see a window unit. Well, that's perfectly fine, and it's perfectly fine if you don't even have a window unit. A lot of people may not know that. So, page 3, section C goes into plumbing, water supply, and sewer and septic. What's the dwelling water supply? You can check all that apply to this, or you don't know. If it's a water supply supplied by a private well, identify whether the well's been tested for these three things: quality of the well, the pressure of the well, and how many gallons it produces. So that can be pulled again from the inspection. If you have it tested, that can come from that report, or either pull it from the health department when you pull those records when it was originally installed.
Okay.
And then you can see if it's water source, when was the last date of the test. So,
Okay.
Dwellings water pipes are made of what type of material? This is what a lot of people, and when I look at RPODs, RPDs, this is one of the ones most people don't know.
Right.
It's what kind of pipes I have. So, and if you don't know, just check this one. What is the dwelling water's heat source? Fuel source? Is it gas, electric, solar, or other? Sewage disposal, check all that apply. Again, much like the water source, now water coming in, now it's going out.
Has to be.
So, is it a tank? Is it a city? Is it drip? Is it connected? Is it shared? That kind of thing. Straight pipe as a wastewater does not go into a septic. Use of this violates the state law. You used to have this, like we call it gray water. Some older homes, and there's some things were piggybacked or grandfathered in. They call it like a washer and dryer was washer water was considered
Gray.
gray water, and it wouldn't go through the septic. So not to fill up the septic, they would just let this be a straight pipe. Well, those are no longer allowed via state law. So used to be sinks and showers and washing machines because that didn't really have sewage in it or waste, so to speak. So that would be gray water, which could run straight through historically, but that's gone. If it's serviced by a septic, how many bedrooms are allowed? And from that permit or no records available. Once in a while, you run across that if the records are really, really old, um, and you have to get a new perk test on the property. And then when was it pumped last? I'm surprised they don't have a you don't know button right there
I know.
because you may not know when it was pumped last.
Because if you never had it done while you own the home,
Yeah,
you
it
don't
just
know.
asks when was the last water test. It don't have a you don't know.
Mm-mm.
So
A lot
I
of people
think
are going to put NA in there, aren't they?
probably,
Or NR.
yeah. And I would answer that way, NA, yes, no, or NR in that
Okay.
box if you don't know. Is there a problem malfunction with the dwelling, septic, sewer, plumbing, or water? And there's your bubbles and then explanations if you answered yes to anything. Again, initials on page 3. Still hadn't seen signatures. Page 4, fixtures and appliances. Is the dwelling equipped with elevator? Very few are in this area at least. When was it last inspected and when was last maintenance on it? Is there a problem or malfunction with any of these things? Attic fan, ceiling fan, elevator, appliances, irrigation, pool, hot tub, wiring, satellite dish, sub pump in the crawl space or basement, gas log, central vacuum, garage door, security system, or other, somewhere to put other in there. If you answered anything yes in that section for fixtures and appliances, here's another spot to fill out. Land and zoning. Is there a problem malfunction with drainage, grading, or soil stability? Is there water standing in the yard based upon runoff or whatnot? Or landscaping. Is the property in violation of local zoning ordinances, restricted covenants, or local land use restrictions? Like zoning ordinances and building code. The next one's build is a violation of any building codes, including the failure to obtain permits. So there's a spot for that hot topic right there. So, like if I've built a fence that doesn't comply with my HOA, I would put that here. Or if I've installed something or wrong. Like we have all the same mailboxes, but my mailbox is different. So I'm conveying that I changed it, something like that. I do like that the building code thing is in there too. Is the property subject to any utilities or other easement, shared driveways, party walls? Like in a condo, you might have shared walls if you're the middle unit. That's what party walls. Encroachments from the other adjacent property or other land use. So um, sometimes we do find, unfortunately, like land that has passed down generations are people that don't get surveys and then they build structures not knowing the exact property line. So you'll see a survey and all of a sudden somebody's deck or somebody's building or somebody's landscaping is across the property lines, usually when you find that out. Any private or public street. So Does the property abut or adjoin or use a private road? Of course, that's something you'd look up because the maintenance on the road is all shared if it's private. There is a private road adjoining. Are there any owners association or maintenance agreements in place? Those things are usually recorded with the register of deeds. So if it is a private road and if there is an agreement, you would look here to see if there is one. What will happen is often in a transfer of a property, if it is on a private road, the attorney will then be required for the people on that road to create something. I have run into that.
I'm going to ask you a
Um,
question at the end of
yep.
this about that, but we can get through this first, but
Okay. You
particularly
want to
about
ask?
that because of my house.
Mm, okay. Like recently, gosh, maybe this is 24, so 23, no, 21. I saw there was a up in Rockingham County, there were 7 mobile homes on a street, like a cul-de-sac street. And they were all like 2 and 3 acre lots. They were big lots, wells, septic, the whole thing up there. Well, there was a private road for that whole section, and they had never had a private road agreement. And the lender required one, or they would not lend on the home. So we actually had to go neighbor to neighbor, knocking on the door and saying, "Hey, legally, there's not an agreement. Who's going to take care of this property, the road, in case something were to happen, or it needed to be repaved or re-rocked or whatever, graveled."
Okay.
They forced us. The lender literally would not loan until there was an agreement in place.
Wow.
Um, or at least some kind of agreement, like an agreement that we weren't going to do anything. They wanted to know. So, Section F: environmental and flooding. Is there hazardous, toxic material products such as asbestos, radon gas, methane, lead that exceed government safety standards located on or which otherwise affect the property? Be careful right here. There's actually parts of the state where, like, if there's a chicken farm next in within so much distance, like, you need to disclose that. Um, or if there's a there's a power plant that's within so many feet, so many proximity to a land, that's got to be disclosed. So a lot of people don't know that. There's like the airport. There's the noise restriction cone at
Oh,
the
yeah.
airport in Greensboro. So literally, I just sold a property earlier this year that was in that noise cone. So we had to sign off on buyer side and seller side that, hey, you realize you're buying a house in the noise cone. So be careful right there with that one. So again, initials, still no SIGs. And now we're going on to page 5. Is there environmental monitoring mitigation system? That would be like um, if you had a radon mitigation system in the that you found radon somewhere, and then there's a system in there fixing it. So, is there debris, whether buried, cover, underground? These are USTs, underground storage tanks, environmental, such as contaminated soil or water, environmental contamination located on or which would affect the property. So if there's like there are big oil tanks, those, Greensboro's got the largest oil reserve outside on the East Coast.
Oh, wow.
Those great big huge thing, those big white things out
Hmm.
by the highway.
Hmm.
Yeah, those are largest on the East Coast.
I did
And
not know that.
we're in the pipeline, like Texas, us, and so a lot of people don't realize that. Well, we would disclose if we had property within a certain proximity to that oil refinery, the storage over there. So, USTs, usually we find often like they're abandoned, like heating units, like a lot of boilers use the oil to heat the house, so there'll be these USTs underground. Um, and what happens is the tank will be compromised, and then if there was any residual oil in there, or a heating soil or fuel, then it leaks into the ground, and you've got contaminated soil. So that's what that question is about. So, any noise, odor, smoke from commercial, industrial, military sources affects the property. So if I'm in Fayetteville and I buy a house and like, wait, I didn't know there was going to be planes flying over me. I live in Fayetteville. So you can see that's blatantly clear. You need to answer that there.
Okay.
Um, Property located in federal or other than flood hazard zone. So we can look that up. Um, and flood insurance is through FEMA. Has the property experienced damage due to flooding, water seepage, pooled water, natural events such as rainfall, coastal storm surge, tidal, river overflow, um, etc. Coastal storm surge, natural event, that's hurricane, that's tornado, any of that stuff. Have you ever filed a claim for flood damage on the property with a provider, including the National Flood Insurance Program? Is there currently flood insurance on the property? And have you received assistance from FEMA um, administration or any other federal disaster assistance for flood on the property? Is there a flood or FEMA elevation certificate on the property? Sometimes when they redo the elevations, like a 5-year flood zone or a 100-year flood zone, that's when they'll change the elevation certificate for a property. So, and most people don't know those without looking them up. Note, if there's a flood insurance policy already on it, often that policy can be assigned over to the buyer at lower premiums than purchasing a brand new policy. That's one of the reasons we ask. Say if a homeowner's been there 15 years and they live beside a Hall River that's in a flood zone and they've got insurance for that, they could assign that 15-year-old policy to the new person at a lower rate than what I would just go get a new policy today for. So that's why we ask.
Okay.
So for properties that received assistance, the requirement to obtain flood insurance passes down to all future owners. Failure to obtain that can result in the owner being ineligible for future assistance. So if you buy a property that's in a flood zone and you don't have insurance on it, um, then if it floods, all of a sudden you can't go to FEMA and say, "Oh my gosh, I flooded, and give me some help." And they don't work that way. So places in section E for answers. Miscellaneous G. Is a property subject to lawsuits, foreclosures, bankruptcy, judgment, tax liens, proposed assessments, mechanics liens, material liens, etc.? Government agency that could affect the property. One that came out right here, like there's a lawsuit against an HOA from one of their own owners, and that's public knowledge. So that's actually something that would have to be disclosed, that because this property is a part of an HOA that is currently being sued. So that would be subject to that lawsuit. That literally happened in the last 2 weeks. And the seller was furious. They didn't want us to, like, you can't tell them what that is. Well, I legally can't keep it. I know. So as an agent, like it said on page 1, if I know something, I have to tell it.
Right.
So is a property subject to lease or a rental agreement? Of course, those leases or rental agreements go with the property. So even if I buy it and someone's in there, I have to honor the lease or either negotiate with that tenant a buyout of their lease. So I can't just stop it because I bought it. So is property subject to covenants, conditions, or restrictions governing documents separate from an owner's association? Any explanations? Again, we got initials. Page 6, H. And this is HOA. The HOA page, we used to like draw a big slash line through if there was someone on there.
Mm-hmm.
So if you answered yes on H1, you have to complete page 6. So, and this whole page questions, the remaining questions in H. So H1 is it subject, yes or no? And you don't know or not disclosing. So if you say yes to H1, then you have to complete the rest of the page.
Okay.
So is it subject to one? If it's yes, then you answer the name of the HOA, how much the dues are each month, year, 6 months, whatever it is, quarter, the name of the telephone address. This looks much like identically to the OTP um,
Yeah.
for HOAs.
Yeah.
Name, telephone number of the president. Often that's what they don't know. Any changes coming up that you might know about, like are they going to increase the dues on January 1st or something like that? Or like currently, I was at an HOA meeting last night. We have to dredge our lake, and it's going to be between 250. The base price is $250,000, and um, it could go as high as $1 million. So they could, in essence, the board could put an assessment on every homeowner to pay for that, or come out with some kind of reason way to pay for it as an association over time, or so if you knew something like that, then any assessments we have to put in there. So fees charged with association and management company in connection with conveyance. This is another one that popped up. What happened was the HOAs companies or the management companies like, ooh, I can charge a fee for this. Well, for transferring names on the ownership, they charge a fee often. And according to the OTP, that has to be paid by the seller. So it doesn't say that in this. The contract does say it has to be paid by the seller. If there's any unsatisfied judgments, pending lawsuits, or existing alleged violation, or government documents involving the property, and state the nature of those things if you know what they are. Any unsatisfied judgments or pending lawsuits against the association, and then explanations if you know any. And finally, lo and behold, on the end of page 6 is the signatures. So what this actually looks like in real world looks more like this. I zoomed in so you could see it, but this is all
That's
the
better
descriptions
though.
and instructions. Here's starting the checks off, and there's all the last page then is HOA stuff with a spot for signatures.
Okay.
So any questions about RPODs while I got it up?
I think it's easier to just from looking at it right here that it's more, I guess it's easier to explain almost. It's not like you're looking for each line. Like I like how they divided up the pages for the topics.
Yeah, I agree. It is
Yeah.
easier to read and follow. And like before, it's like, well, wait, I checked yes, but that was really line 2, but down there on 3, like, and
Yeah.
this color code actually helps it. At least every other one is so you can see which question is which.
Yeah.
So it is definitely clearer, I would agree. So,
Cool.
uh,
And since it was created by the North Carolina Real Estate Commission, that means every realtor in North Carolina uses this form, right?
yeah, well, starting July.
Well, yeah, July. When
They've
that
said we
switches.
can start using it now, but it's a requirement to start using in July.
Okay.
To me, it's so much easier. I would just go ahead and do it
Yeah.
now. And I'll upload it to Command later on as an option.
Okay. And you'll just put a note out when you do that.
I will. Yep.
Cool.
Because we're recording this, so he's going to make a recording of this session. So in case anybody wants to watch it, the description and explanations, and then once the recording goes out, then we'll also upload it and let folks know that it's out there. I've already put it out there and said y'all could start using it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's on Facebook and it was emailed out both. Um, but most folks, some people don't. I always say realtors don't read, so we all know realtors don't read. So somebody actually asked me a question about this thing. They're like, "Did you know this was out?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I told you 2 weeks ago." Um, so this is the new one.
We're on
I
real
like this one.
we're on agent time.
Yeah, agent time. I love it. So
For sure.
so when you said something about your own private house, so
Yeah.
that's
So our neighbors are selling their house and their listing agent actually reached out to me asking if there was an agreement about our shared driveway. Because when you come off the main road, you turn into our driveway, which is technically my land. And then you like drive and they take a right to go to their yard. But what happened, the people that we bought the house from, them and the neighbors, I guess, agreed to have the asphalt laid and they paid for it jointly or whatever. But the listing agent is asking me if there was ever an agreement for the shared driveway. And I was like, I don't know. Because the sellers, my neighbors, the sellers, they were like, we don't know. So I'm
yeah,
like, I don't even know where to like where, if it were me, where would I go to look for that?
register deeds.
Okay.
Yeah. Just like you record a plat map,
Mm-hmm.
you would record on like a shared drive. That's
But
literally where it's registered. So,
so even though
um,
like that part of the property is ours, are we agreeing to let somebody drive on it? Is that what you're saying? That would be the agreement that had to
yeah,
be filed and recorded?
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And it would also, you might in there agree to the maintenance of it, like if it's got to be repaved or resurfaced or whatever else.
Okay.
It goes in there as well. So,
Okay. I just don't ever remember us talking about it, but that's been a while back. So
yeah, a friend of ours, it was an agent that with me at another office, and her
Attention
business.
retirees, if you're willing to be at your computer from 9 a.m. to 10.
Like what?
It's me.
Um, her business model is flips. So she buys these old farmhouses that are abandoned or whatever in the county and flips them. And they're awesome when she gets done. They're really pretty and but there's a ton of disclosure. So I mean, some of it she takes them to the studs and redoes lights and floors and walls and everything else. But she I remember occasion where there was a shared drive and the business next door, it was a business beside of the property and they had a shared drive with the existing person at the house. Well, when she bought it, they decided they weren't going to let her use that space, that entry. So literally, she had the gravel company, and this way, look, she had the gravel company come, and her driveway was in a slant, and she just made the gravel straight out.
huh.
So like, they raked gravel over into a straight line because the business wouldn't let her keep the easement.
Oh wow.
And there wasn't an easement in place. And she's like, "What do I do?" And I'm like, "You have to create a driveway for your house." So
Hmm. It's crazy.
that's true. We could write a book, people wouldn't
Yeah.
believe it.
Just the
So
little things.
that's true. That's true. So, well, that was my biggie for this week. What questions do either of you have?
Yay.
Thanks for joining us, Shanice.
Yeah, sorry, I was a little late.
No, all good. I was just wanted to cover that new form with everybody and make sure it gets out there. So, another one I do want to bring attention to while we're here. Um, two things that are popping up as an issue. Um, is listing agreements.
Oh boy.
All right, hold on.
Uh-oh.
So what I'm seeing in listing agreements, and I'm just gonna find one that, and I'm not picking on any single person. So let me get in here and open one up that's so it doesn't look like I'm picking on an agent. Oh, good. So I'm able to hide this one. So let me share screen this. Share screen. Which one am I going to share? This one. Share. Okay, can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay, so we've got an exclusive right to sell listing agreement between this person and KW Central. So as I come down to when they select agency, and what folks are not seeing is I think it is. Nope.
I wish they would highlight everything on this thing that, or like red flag it if it's not done. Like, so we know. There it is, isn't it?
There it is. Okay. This is on page 11. So here, what a lot of people don't realize is E, it's these dual agency is a question. Yes or no? If they authorize dual agency, then you jump down here, right? And then this is the next question. If they authorize dual agency, here's the one line or. So dual agency, or they won't, exclusive representation. It's one or the other. It can't be both. And that's what people, I've seen them sign every box we got. No, that's not agreeing to all of it. I need to know yes or no here. And my yes or no is where you initial. So if exclusive representation, meaning I don't even want a Keller Williams agent to be on the other side of this transaction, is what this means. Now, what most people really want is like this one. This one says, yes, I agree to dual agency with Keller Williams. However, I don't agree to the same individual agent representing both sides. And if you check the do not, then you initial, I want designated dual agency. Now, if you say does, that means you don't have an initial here. So yes, dual agency, and the seller does authorize the same individual to represent both seller and buyer. And then you don't initial here. So that's just one. I'm seeing it kind of over and over and over right now, and we're having to send that back. So clarity is, this is a line in the sand at this or. It's yes or, and if it's dual, then this gets nothing. And then you answer the questions down the cookie trail based upon how they decide. I will go ahead and show you one more thing, and I'll do it in mine. Stop share there. Another one that we're seeing in the offer to purchase is, let my screen come up. I actually made one, so let me screen share this one. Can you see the offer to purchase now?
Mhm.
Okay, so in the offer to purchase itself, it's in the other big one we're seeing a ton of, and I'm not sending it back yet, but it could be an issue. So here, this is a question. The funds to complete it, or they're getting a loan. So much like in agency, this is a question. This or that, one or the other. Okay. If they choose this, like here, this particular one is doing a first mortgage. It's conventional for this amount of money. Well, the offer is for that amount of money, which is more, right? So when I go, that section is not enough money for my offer.
Oh,
Then I should answer this question on the next page. Where's the rest of this money coming from that you're going to make an offer with? They have cash on hand for the difference. So this is a question. They're not done.
okay.
And I'm seeing this empty all the time. Like it's a conventional, they're doing 80% LTV, which is loan to value. So they're not doing the math to give me the dollar amount, which is fine. 80% LTV is fine. But the issue is here. Where's the proof
20%.
of funds for the other 20%? So I'm seeing that a lot right there. Now I'm not kicking it back for that at this point, but it is a conversation we're going to start having. So is that clear as mud?
Yeah.
So a lot of people think, oh, they just skip this box like it don't exist. So and they don't realize this is a either or right here. So
Okay.
hey, we learned something today.
We did
Well, good.
every
So,
day.
yeah, me too. I learn something every day. But what else you got? Anything?
I don't.
See, y'all have been spending 20 days with me so far. You're probably sick of me at this point. Um, it's the rest
Almost
of
done, right, Shanice?
Almost done. I can't wait.
Almost done.
so, well, if you all don't have anything, then I don't have anything else. Like I just want to cover those couple of things with you. And um, while I was there, I wanted to share that OTP thing and the agency thing that we're seeing I I've sent several files back this last week for this. I'm not seeing them back on the loan and the LTV piece, but just know it's not right. So,
Yeah.
what if they don't have the money for it? You know, I
That's true.
said they're giving them 80%, and where's the difference? And if I've accepted that as my offer, I've said
Yeah.
to seller, we don't need to know where that money's coming from. Um, the other thing I see that I don't care for personally is an offer with just the PIN number on it. And
Right.
I'm the listing agent. I would send that back and say, or send, when I do send it back, I'd fill it out and say, I see you didn't fill this out, so I went ahead and did, because my BIC is going to require it to have more information than just a PIN number.
We were
Because
talking about that yesterday with Sam, because we actually pulled out an offer to purchase so we could go through it, because it was talking about, it was contracts, right, Shanice? Was that, I can't remember the right topic, but
he was
Uh,
making
um,
receive offers.
yeah,
Yeah.
making and receiving. And he was
Mhm.
showing us how to basically how he starts, and how he does his offers. But we actually mentioned that. And I said, I remember you specifically in a team meeting saying, if you put the wrong information there, you could be selling the wrong house. So if you don't give me more
Absolutely.
than a PIN number and you you transposed a digit, then
Yep.
you sold the wrong house.
I've actually seen that happen.
Yeah. And I was like, find the deed, find the plat, find the subdivision name, find something to tell me that, 123 Main Street is in, whatever subdivision.
Yeah, literally, I have seen that happen
That's
where they put in
crazy.
the address and a PIN, and then the PIN not be right.
Yeah.
Um,
Like you gotta be, I mean, because you're legally selling a house.
yeah, exactly. And we've seen, like it say one address on one document and say another one on another where they're
Hmm.
conflicting. We're like, wait a second, which one is it?
And
So
Sam mentioned that because he sold a house that was on, oh, Shanice, what was it? Like, for example, like 123 Loop.
Oh,
So
yeah. Yeah, it was
like,
like Lane or,
yeah, like
yeah.
Loop Road, something, something, like Main Loop Road. And all
Mhm.
the other documents said like Main Loop or something, and they were leaving out a word, and his inspector's like, I don't know what house you're selling, but this isn't the right property. And they went back and forth, and the tax card is what it obviously came down to, but it was almost like the address wasn't real the way that it was on documents and everything, because they were
yeah,
leaving out a word, from the address.
yeah, and I've seen that. Like you said, like a loop extension or
Uh-huh.
Highway 268 extension. Um, in there, and we've put in, you know 3080 Highway 268, but there's also a 3080 Highway 268 extension,
Mention. Yeah,
or there's a north or a south, and
right.
there's a 200 North Elm and a 200 South Elm, and leaving out a direction or a loop or a lane, yeah, absolutely could
Makes
change.
a huge
Like
difference.
every city in America has an Elm Street.
Mm-hmm.
Um, However, you could also um, mess it up if it was, you know, if I said Elm something and North Elm and
Mm-hmm.
left that off, because Elm is a real place versus North Elm. So,
That's so crazy.
yep, absolutely happens. That's why your BIC asks for details.
Well, no, you're right though, when you say it's that paper has to tell me everything. Like if you're not there to explain for me, that paper's got to explain.
That document has to stand in court.
Yeah,
So if it's halfway filled out, it's halfway standing. So
right,
if I get killed in a car wreck on the way to the courthouse to defend it, I can't,
right.
because that document has to defend itself. Or if the agent's gone or whatever, uh, every document we fill out um, has to stand on its own.
That makes
So
sense.
that's why I just don't accept anything as BIC.
Nor should we.
I'm trying not to be, a hardball or anything. I'm just trying to protect us and protect the agent.
Yeah,
So that's more important to me than anything. And the firm, protect the firm too, because that's again what I get paid for. So,
right.
okay,
Thank you.
nothing else. I appreciate you, and I will see you all later in the week, of course.
Sounds good.
So thank y'all. Take care.
All
Bye.
right. Thanks.
Bye.